All right. I guess you downloaded the paper. I've provided the link. So you can download the paper from here, and we are starting with the paper itself. So as you can see, the paper is of November 2018. Okay, November 2018. Have you opened it? So what you do is you can simultaneously see the questions and you can come to the Jamboard and you can have a look at the question. Sorry, solution. So I hope you are ready for it now. Shall we begin? So come to question number one. Question number one. See, first it will be Gujarati version of the paper. You, after some pages scrolling, you get the English version. So the first question is very easy question from liquidators accounts. Okay, what is written in it? After making payment to debenture holders, the liquidator has balance of rupees 2,58,060 on his hand. Unsecured creditors are of rupees 3,50,000. The liquidator is entitled to 2% commission on amount paid to unsecured creditors. Calculate liquidator's remuneration and amount to be paid to unsecured creditor. Now, I did explain to you when we did this chapter that whenever you are going to make the last payment, and if out of the last payment you have to also give the commission for whatever amount you're going to pay, you have to assume that the amount that you have in your hand is 100 plus the commission, right? So we try to get to the solution of this. I write the heading on the Jamboard. It's November. It's November 2018 paper. Triple A 2 Advanced Accounting Auditing 2. Question number 1. In that A, so you calculate the liquidator's remuneration. Liquidator's remuneration will be whatever amount is left, that is 2,58,060 multiplied by 2% commission out of what you have in your hand is 102. So the remuneration comes out to rupees 5060. Okay. Now amount paid to creditors will be total amount in your hand. Total amount is 2,58,060 minus the remuneration that you paid 5060. So what you are going to pay to creditors is rupees 2,53,000. Have you got it? This sum was quite easy because we have done it number of times while doing the chapter. I hope you are able to cope up with. See, I'm not sharing any PPT in this lecture. I've just given you the question paper, that is. Okay. So what you have to do is you have to open the PDF and simultaneously you have to also look at the solution that I'm doing on the Jamboard. So you can open the Jamboard and you can see the solution for any of the sums that you are unable to solve. Is it all right? Are you all able to do with me? Okay, let us go to the next one then. Next one, question 1b. The capital structure of Gajan Limited consisted the following: 80,000 equity shares, 20,000 preference shares, 5,000 debenture fine. Besides sundry creditors, the bills payable were 6 lakh and 50,000. The company is absorbed by Ganesh Limited. The purchase consideration being made as per the payment of debenture at a premium of 10%, the issue of similar number of 10% preference shares and of rupees 50 each, and the issue of two equity shares of rupees 10 each in the new company for every four shares held in Gajanan Limited. Calculate purchase consideration. Now there are so much of information given, but we need to focus only on those information which will help us to calculate the purchase consideration. So how do we generally calculate purchase consideration? Purchase consideration is the amount that is paid to equity and preference shareholders. So we find that. So I write here sum number B. So what amount we are going to pay to equity shareholders? Equity shareholders. What is the amount that you are going to pay to equity shareholders? Read the line carefully given in the question. See, equity shareholders are given two equity shares of 10 each in the new company for four equity shares. So for every four shares, you're going to issue two shares. Now total equity shares mentioned above 80,000 equity shares, right? So 80,000 multiplied by two shares for every four shares. Okay, and the value of one share is rupees 10. So thereby you are going to issue equity shares worth rupees 4 lakh. Similarly, you are going to also issue preference shares. Preference shareholders will get preference shareholders. What is being said regarding preference shares? So preference shares will get similar number of preference shares of rupees 50 each. Above, read the above line. There are 20,000 preference shares. So just multiply 20,000 into 50. So the amount will be 10 lakhs. So total that you are going to pay to shareholders will be the purchase consideration, which comes out to rupees 14 lakhs. Okay. So this is total purchase consideration. Done. Two sums are done in hardly any time. Okay. Are you all with me? Enjoying doing sums this way? Pull paper itself. Shall we go ahead? Okay. Now we go to the question number 1C. If you if you have downloaded the paper, you can read it. So C is one person company. We have already discussed when we did the chapter concepts under Companies Act. One person company, it's a theory question for 2 marks, right? We go to the next one. D, mention mention the books of accounts, records, and documents maintained by stockbrokers. Now, for your information, I'm helping you out. What are the documents maintained? Register of transaction, that is SODA book, client ledger, general ledger, journals, cash book, bank passbook. These are the documents that the share broker maintains. So you can just write here of transaction, register of transaction. You can call it SODA book. For 2 marks, you can easily score here. These are easy questions. Then clients ledger, general ledger, journals, cash book, bank passbook. So these are the books that are maintained by stockbroker. We go to the next one. We have done till D. We go to question 1E. Question 1E. Strong Limited agreed to absorb Weak Limited as on 31st March 2018. Net assets of Strong Limited and Weak Limited are 3 lakh and 1 lakh 80,000 respectively. Number of shares of Strong Limited is 15,000 and Weak Limited also has 12,000 shares. Calculate the ratio of exchange of shares. Now this is a new kind of a sum we may not have done when we did the chapter because we mainly focus on the long sums, right? So we let us try to understand this question. So first of all, whenever there's a question wherein you are asked to find the exchange ratio, you need to find out the intrinsic value of shares. So how do we get it? Intrinsic value of shares is equal to net assets upon number of shares. Now we find out for strong and weak. So for strong limited, strong limited, 3 lakh is the amount. 3 lakh is the amount of net asset and number of shares are 15,000. So intrinsic value comes out to rupees 20. And for week limited, the assets are 1 lakh 80,000 and number of shares are 12,000. So intrinsic value is 15. Now number of shares which strong limited will issue to weak limited because strong limited is absorbing weak limited. Number of shares issued by strong to weak. See, total shares of weak limited. Uh, uh, See, total net assets of week limited is 1 lakh 80,000. So it's 1 lakh 80,000 divided by the per share intrinsic value of strong limited, that is 20. So it will issue 9,000 shares. 9,000 shares. You can refer these types of sums later and you can practice this for improving. So what will be the exchange ratio? Exchange ratio. So for 12,000 shares, you are issuing 9,000 shares. Or you can say the opposite way. You are issuing 9,000 shares, 9,000 shares against 12,000 shares. So the ratio comes out to be 3:4. This is what they've asked. I'll be little faster just because we have to complete the paper in some limited lectures, right? So you can just refer to the Jamboard that I've shared the link with you. You can just refer any of the sums later on when you do practice on your own. And for any doubts, you can refer to it. Any confusion so far? We have completed with question number 1, which was for 10 marks. Now you can see here, if you go on with this speed, you can complete your question number ones with the question number 1 within 15-20 minutes. That should be your target. Of course, you have to ensure that you do all the sums correctly, but then you need to be little fast. Okay, you want me to repeat B? Uh, Yashira is not able to understand some B. Anyways, we'll do it fast. See, in B, they have just asked you purchase consideration. If you remember the chapter of merger purchase, uh, amalgamation in the nature of merger purchase we have done. In that, we in the merger method, you were required to calculate the purchase consideration, and I did explain to you if it is given directly that these are the number of shares issued to you, then you can easily calculate purchase consideration. You don't require to go with the net asset and everything. And that is what I have done. Whatever you have issued to equity shareholders and preference shareholders, we have done the total, and that's how we have found out the purchase consideration. Fine. Let us go ahead to question number two. Now, question number two, I will say is a question where you need to score maximum, because question number two is the sum of liquidators accounts or liquidator statement of account, right? And here you need to score maximum marks. Now, as we have done a lot of practice in for this particular chapter, because I wanted you to score maximum out of this, you should not lose a single mark out of this 14 marks. So now what you have to do is quietly go on doing question number two, first option. I'll be doing the solution along with you, but you have to make sure that you first try and then look at what I have done on the Jamboard. Okay, it will be a deal, right? So I'm giving you time to start with that question, and you can just refer to when you have completed or when you stop at some point. Okay, so I start with it. So first part is liquidator statement of account heading. Liquidators statement of account. Okay. So the columns you will have is receipts, okay. Step by step you can go along. In case you are not able to solve, you can be with me. I'll help you out to solve the sum. Okay. So let us start. First of all, start with the receipt side itself. Whatever is the assets realized, whatever cash you have, that you have to write on the receipt side. So as a liquidator, you need to first collect all the money that you can get out of the business, and then you can start distributing it as a liquidator. So I write accordingly here. For any of the points you don't understand, you can refer the sum or you can ask me later. So on the receipt side, two assets realized. So if you look in the question, whatever assets realized, you can find easily. So what you're realizing, bank 60,000, then trade receivables 1,60,000, then comes inventories 1,20,000, then comes plant and machinery 2,90,000, then comes furniture 70,000. Okay, then land and building you're receiving. See see the point of land and building, what is being written for land and building. Okay, the loan was mortgage of land and building. Now you can see the loan amount. Loan amount is 90,000. So See, interest accrued on loan on mortgage of building up to the date of payment was 10,000. So in short, your loan amount was 90,000 and plus 10,000 is the interest that you need to pay against your land and building for getting your land and building freed. So you can write here that your land and building is land and building after paying the secured creditors. After paying secured creditors, 3,40,000 is the value of land and building minus 1 lakh you will pay to secured creditors to get your land and building back. So effectively, you can realize 2,40,000. Okay. So you have written all these assets as assets realized. Okay. Now we start with the payment side. So what is the first expense that you will pay? First amount that you will pay. Secured, we have already dealt with secured creditors. So now we can start with what? Remember the order? So after fully secured, you have to pay to. Is there any liability related to workers? No. There's no liability related to workers. You can write it that way also, Taranjit. If you want to pay to fully secured creditor on the credit side, what you have to do is on the receipt side, just write land building as it is 3,40,000 and pay on the credit side 1 lakh. That is one and the same thing. Ultimately, you need to pay 1 lakh. That is more important. Okay. So we go to the next in the order. So we have to pay liquidators expenses. Liquidators expenses. What is the amount of liquidation expense? 4,600. Then comes liquidators remuneration. Liquidators remuneration. Okay. Can you tell me what is the amount realized? Total of amount realized in the chat box. Total of amount realized. We already taken cash and bank in the assets realized. Except cash and bank, you have to calculate the asset realized. See, it is mentioned in the question itself. The liquidator is entitled to a remuneration of 3% on asset realized except cash and bank. So just ignore cash and bank and do the total of rest of the assets that are realized. What is the total? 160 plus 120 plus 290 plus 70 and for land and building. Total is add land and building total 340. We have already written in assets realized. You can write separately opening cash balance or as such I have written together. Have you included the total amount of land and building? Total amount of land and building that is 3,40,000, not 2,40,000. The liquidator has realized 3,40,000. So total of assets realized will be okay. Total. I'm just waiting for the answer of the total of assets realized. I'll solve any of the queries later on. We need to first complete the sum. Please, yes, it's correct. Diya and Taranjit, you got it right. So liquidator's remuneration is 9,80,000. 9,80,000 into what is the percentage of remuneration is 3%. So you can write it in the inner column 29,000, 29,400, 3% of 9,80,000. And then you have to also give remuneration of 2%, 2% on equity share, or whatever amount you pay to equity shareholders, you have to give 2% for it. So right now we don't know, so we keep it blank for the time being. We go ahead. Then we go to the next point. Who will be paid next? Look at the question and let me know. Who will be paid next? Do you remember the order? Yes, preferential creditors. So preferential creditors. What will be the amount? Please let me know the amount. Preferential creditors. Look at the question and let me know the amount. See, for trade payable, they have said 4 lakh. So your creditors are 4 lakh, right? Now come to the adjustments. See, preferential creditors include any sundry creditors amount to 30,000. So they've clearly given to you 30,000. You don't have to calculate anything. Direct amount is given to you, 30,000, right? Okay. Preferential done. Who comes next in the order after preferential? Who comes next? Very good. It's the debenture holders. So debenture holders will get debentures amount. Debenture amount is, what is the amount of debenture? 2 lakh. Plus, if there is any outstanding or accrued interest on debenture, you have to add to it. So accrued interest on debenture. So what is the amount of debenture interest pending? All the payments were made on 30 June and your balance sheet date is 31st March. So April, May, June, 3 months interest. 3 months interest on debentures at 10%. What will be the amount? Interest of debenture amount, accrued interest. See, come to the question. Your debenture amount is 2 lakh plus you have short term borrowings in that. Read the point. Interest accrued on debenture 10,000. So 10,000 is already pending and plus new 5,000. 2 lakh multiplied by the rate 10% multiply by 3 upon 12. So you already had to pay 10,000 as outstanding and new interest which is accrued is 5,000. So total interest pending on debenture is 15,000. I hope you have understood this 15,000. All of you understood this 15,000. How do we get it? Already in the balance sheet they have mentioned 10,000 and additional you have calculated 5,000. So total outstanding interest on debenture will be 15,000. So total debenture holders will be paid 2,15,000. Is it okay? Understood? Next in the order, who will be paid next? Who will be paid next? You have paid to debenture holders as well. As per the order, who comes next? By unsecured creditors. We have paid to secured creditors, we have paid to preferential creditors. It's time to pay to unsecured creditors. That amount we already know, 4 lakh minus 30,000. So 3 lakh 70 are the remaining creditors which are unsecured creditors. Is it clear? 3 lakh 70,000 unsecured creditors. Who comes after unsecured creditors? By preference shareholders. Preference shareholders. Okay, preference shareholders, inner column 2 lakh for their preference capital, 10% preference capital 2 lakh. Then extremely sorry for the disturbance. Unsecured creditors, see total creditors were 4 lakh, out of which 30,000 were preferential. So remaining will become unsecured. What's so difficult in it? We come to the point of preference shares. See, preference share 2 lakh, preference share 2 lakh. Now, just go through the example. Is there any outstanding? Mm, the dividends on preference share were in areas for 2 years. You can see the point in the question. So calculate the dividend for on preference share and multiply it by 2. So you get what amount you get? Preference dividend. Preference dividend 40,000. 40,000. So total you need to pay to preference shareholders 2 lakh 40,000. Okay. Now the last one to be paid are by equity shareholders. Okay. Now equity shareholders are partly paid. Now generally before making payment to all these, you need to check whether you have the money or not. But I guess in this sum we had the money. You can just check what is the amount that we have pending. What is the amount we have? Okay. Total of the receipt side is, I'm doing the working on the receipt side as a part of the solution with other color. I'm doing the working here, so don't get confused. It's not part of the standard solution, it's the working. So total of receipt side is total of receipt side is 9,40,000, right? 9,40,000, right? And payment so far that you made, whatever payments you made, deduct that. What are payments for 4,600, 29,400, then 2,15,000, 30,000, 3,70,000, 2,40,000. So your payments, receipts minus payments still here. We have included preference as well. So the total comes out to 8,89,000. So the money that you have in your hand is 51,000. 51,000. Okay. Now we need to find capital deficiency. Capital deficiency. Capital deficiency. What will be the capital deficiency? Total amount you need to pay. Payment to be made to equity shareholders. What is the amount of equity capital of both the types of equity shares? 360 plus 150. So 5 lakh 10,000 is the amount that you need to pay to. 5 lakh 10,000 is the amount that you need to pay to. Out of which you have available cash 51,000. 51,000. Right? So capital deficiency will be 4 lakh 60,000. 4 lakh 60,000. So there are two ways of doing it. The one way is that what we did when we did the chapter, distributing this, right? And there's another way of doing it. You can even find loss per share and then find the capital deficiency per share. So you can come to know what amount will be refunded per share. This is also a way of doing it. So just for practice, we can also do this. So loss per share will be 4 lakh 60,000 divided by number of shares. This is a different way of doing it. You can do with the method we did in the class, or you can even go on with this 5.75 is the loss per share. Now refund per equity share. Refund per share will be refund per equity share will be first category share is 7.5 paid up and second is 6 per share paid up. So we can find like this. The name of the two shares are, no names are given, so you can just calculate 2 times 7.5 minus 5.75 is equal to rupees 1.75, and the second for second share 6 5.75. Okay, so this is what you need to make payment, but before that you have to ensure that you give the money to liquidators remuneration. Liquidators remuneration 2% is there. The amount that you have in your hand is 51,000. So, and percentage remuneration that you need to give is 2%. So if 102 is 51,000, then what is 2? So if you solve this, you get 1,000. So I write here 1,000, and so the total will be 30,400. Okay. Now equity shareholders are to be paid. So first category equity shareholders will be paid rupees 1.75 on how many shares? On how many shares? Total number of shares are 20,000. 20,000 into 1.75. 20,000 into 1.75. So that will be 20,000 to 1.75. Amount will be 35,000, and another shares 60,000 into 0.25. So 15,000. So that's it. Answer is 50,000, and the total of liquidators account will be 9,40,000. 9,40,000. Okay. So we have done this sum. Okay. Capital deficiency is, oh sorry, I've deducted that 1,000 here itself. So just I'm writing a note here so that there won't be any confusion. Available cash is 50,000. 51 minus 1,000 paid to liquidator. So available cash is only 50,000 here. I'm changing the amount here. Fine. Is it clear now? This is liquidator's remuneration 1,000. I already deducted and then found out the capital deficiency because that amount is to be paid to the liquidator 1,000. Out of 51, one will be paid. So 50 is what you have in your hand. So then the distribution will take place. Okay. So this is how you need to calculate by the other method. The first method that we did, the standard method that you can use, you will get the same answer. If you want to go with per share loss method, then this is also a way to go. Okay. So far we have done uh, short sums. That is question number 1 and question 2, first option. Right. Now second option, question 2, second option is still to be done. Okay, that will continue in the next lecture because I'm very sure that uh, it will be too long then. Okay, so that's it for this lecture. But if you still have